Everyone, my name is Emily Singer Lucio, and I'm the ADA coordinator for the University of Maryland.
Hi, my name is Daniel Brodsky, and I'm a Terp Succeed student at the University of Maryland.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. Welcome. We're happy to have you here today. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about you and your life on campus with a disability. So let's start off by having you tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am 24. I love campus. It's first time when you go on campus, it's confusing, and then now it's easy to navigate it. There's of course you still get confused when you're inside some buildings because they're confusing. Aside from that, it's really nice. Living in Johnson Woodall is pretty nice. Being next to a gym and a food hall is also pretty nice because it allows you to, you can also walk to others, but it's just easier to have one next to you so you don't have to stress yourself out or just walk somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally understand. I think everybody gets lost around here. Tell me a little bit about you and your disability. Would you, so people know a little bit about that?
So I have what is called NVLD, or non-verbal learning disability. Non-verbal learning disability, it doesn't mean that you're non-verbal. You're verbal. It means that you don't understand non-verbal social cues, meaning you can't read them. So a person who doesn't have my disability would, let's say, they'll see someone is looking at their watch or a little too many times, and they'd be, oh, okay, they need to go off somewhere. As for me, the difficulty comes in that I may not know why they're looking at their watch. They may just be looking at their watch, and I might just see it as, oh, they're looking at their watch. So I don't know, and so it's always harder for me to gauge what's happening. So I always have to apologize and kind of making sure that I'm not taking up their time, because because since I can't read the nonverbal social cues, I go about it from the perspective of better ask them so they can say it to me straight away, so that I'll have an easier time understanding what is going on, and make sure that I'm doing everything correctly in social terms.
That's a good way to describe it. So would you say it's easier for you to understand things when it's more direct as opposed to indirect or abstract?
Yeah, so when something is direct, it helps me a lot more because it allows me to know this is what's going on, this is a situation, this is how I need to go about it.
Thanks. That's helpful. So can you tell me a little bit about what it's like learning, what it was like learning you had a disability?
I was diagnosed at Children's when I was young with this disability. And, it's always, it's a challenge, yeah, of course. On one hand, of course, it's easy, but also it's a challenge because there are so many things that, for some reason, are a lot harder for me than for others. So, I have a hard time using a map. For some reason, my brain can't comprehend a map. So the way I remember places is by landmarks. For some reason, my brain can remember landmarks, and that's the easiest way for me to navigate. With a map, it doesn't help me because maybe it's because the way the map is, maybe it's because it's flat, maybe there's a lot of different things that go into why I may not understand it. And I could try to learn, but I don't know if that's going to help me or makes things worse because for the time, right now, I have a hard time. So.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, right? So I can read a map, but I can drive someplace and I look around and I can drive there 5 years later and I remember how to get there as long as I haven't changed any of the landmarks. I have the same thing when I go to the grocery store, right? Because I can find a product because of the visual, right? Because if they change, if the cereal package looks the same, but the minute they change the way the package looks, I can't find it on the shelf. I don't know if that's an issue, but it just drives me crazy. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, so I totally get the visual thing. That makes total sense. How would you say having a disability has impacted you at different stages of your life? You said you learned when you were young. S-
diagnosed by a professional. So,
yeah. So I mean, like how has it been different at different ages in your life?
um, when I was younger, I don't. I guess I might have exhibited more. I'd say, maybe more autism related behaviors, in the sense of maybe it's not everybody who does it, but of course, when I was younger, when I would get very upset, my reaction was to hit myself on the head for whatever reason. That was just because I'm not entirely sure why I did it, but there's something that maybe made me do it for some apparent reason. Maybe it's the stress, maybe it's something else. I don't think I'll ever truly know.
Mm-hmm.
But and then when I was younger, I did not speak with peers my age at all. So I would speak with adults, um, and I actually started speaking with peers in like high school.
Hmm.
So it was not until high school when I started speaking to peers my age, and now I feel like now I can work with people a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier with like different people,
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of understand that for me, because I have a disability, I I think I kind of understand people a little bit better than I think a person who does not have I don't know, a disability. Um, and I think it's maybe because that people who don't have disabilities, they don't really tend to think about what another person is feeling, not out of malice, but just because they don't, I think, have something that makes them kind of stop and be like, okay, how is this person feeling? Okay, how can I work with them? How can I become friends with them? For them, I feel it's mostly they just are kind of in their little bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't really leave their little bubble.
Okay.
While I think for me, it's like, because of my disability, it's kind of, my bubble has always kind of expanded. There's never really been a point where I've like been with a set group. I've always kind of expanded. I've always kind of made sure that I am with a diverse group of people.
That's interesting. How would so when you were younger, like really young, how did you do in terms of interacting with your friends and making friends? How was that?
That was hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard. When I was younger, it was very hard, because my social skills are not great. Of course, they're getting better. I'm working on them every day, and they're getting better. But when I was younger, it wasn't something that I really got help with,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I made friends, but it wasn't like long lasting friendships. It was for that moment, right? Like elementary school friends,
Mm-hmm.
not the same as middle or high school friends. Like high school friends, like friends that you are friends with even after you graduate high school.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, when your social skills are not something that you're strong with, it makes it a lot harder because you don't know what a person may be, saying, or what they mean when
Mm-hmm.
they say something.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a lot harder.
Mm-hmm. Was autism part of the diagnosis?
No, so
Okay.
NVLD, nonverbal learning disability, is not autism.
Okay. I just
But
wasn't sure if there was another part of it that was autism. Okay.
no, you might have, sure, yeah, you might have some autistic like behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not autism. But because it's such a rare condition,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's not in the DSM-5, because people don't entirely know how to classify it,
Okay.
they put it in with autism because it's the easiest thing to do for them,
Uh-huh.
when in reality it's a separate condition, and it's so like unique that putting it together with autism really kind of muddles what it really is.
Okay. All right. So you talked about interacting with people and people, understanding you. And so I'm assuming that, there are things that you have found helpful to share with other people about yourself to help them better understand you and help, relate to you. So what are some of the things you found helpful to share with others about yourself?
Um, it's easy to tell people up front that I have a disability and to explain to them that I am not great socially.
Mm-hmm.
So, I may be awkward in, social skills, and for them to know that I am not doing or saying anything to offend them,
Mm-hmm.
because how I am saying things and how I think about them in my head and how they come out may feel like offensive, or they may feel like, like I am trying to maliciously, say something
Mm-hmm.
or like be mean, when in reality it's just hard sometimes to say my thoughts clearly.
Okay.
So what goes on here doesn't always mean that what I say will be the same thing.
Here being in your head because
Yeah,
people can't see you.
in my head. Sorry, yeah, in my
It's
head.
okay.
What's in my head, what I have in my head, and when I speak it, not the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good, right? Are you usually pretty open with people when you meet them,
Oh
sharing with
yeah,
them?
yeah. Of course, the conversation has to go to some point where I can bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am more open about my disability because I think that if you are more open,
Mm-hmm.
people are gonna understand you a lot better
Mm-hmm.
than if you don't say anything.
That's a really good point. That's great. So, what do you wish other people knew or understood about you?
That I really am trying to fit in to a world that's not made for people with disabilities. And you have to kind of you don't have to talk to me like in a sense of like child like, but you kind of have to understand that my brain does not work the same as your brain. So how you may think about something or how you may go about doing something, I may do something totally different. And so if people understood that, I think it would be a lot easier to have a better understanding of how a person with a disability functions and how they go about the world, how they view the world.
Yeah, it'd be nice if everyone looked at different ways people did that, right? Um, what are some preconceived ideas you think people have about you?
That's not something I really think about. It's not really something that I really don't know, It's not something that ever really crosses my mind. I'm sure people have preconceived ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but like maybe they think that because I have a disability, I may not be able to do things like they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird because I've had experiences when somebody, let's say, like, curses or whatever, and then they apologize to me as if I'm a child.
Mm.
And it's so weird because, that makes you feel like you're still a child and you're not a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even as an adult. Like, it's like people feel like they can't be the same as they are with their friends.
Hmm.
And some people are like same with me as they are with their friends, and that's good. That makes it so much easier. But when other people just apologize because they cussed, it it's so weird. It's like apologizing for unlocking the door. That's like it's weird. And you shouldn't apologize for something that all people do.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah,
uh,
that's a really unique experience. Yeah, I'm sure that is. So, what have been some of your biggest challenges and how have you worked through them?
my biggest challenges are ones that are just going to remain with me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like some things I can overcome, right? There's some little things, easy things like, stress and stress level. But other things that I am not really sure how I'm gonna go about it. Like, I can self advocate for myself, but also I'm a person who doesn't like to start drama.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is doing something that is bothering me, I won't say anything because of I don't because I don't know how it's gonna end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could say something, hey, could you please stop? What if a person doesn't stop? So just I just live with it, which is not the best way to go about it, but I don't really have any other way of going about it. People can tell
Mm.
me, oh, speak up for yourself, but how can you speak up when you don't like any issues to happen?
Yeah.
And then there's of course my my having no number sense, just mathematical weaknesses, which thanks to technology, I can kind of just accommodate, but I don't think I'll ever really get over that portion of my disability. It's just something that's gonna be with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with like social, nobody really can tell that I have a disability. If they, if I don't tell them. Then there's also, of course, my struggles with the unwritten rules of society.
Mm.
That I like. There's so much things that I just don't understand why it's wrong. Like you could compliment someone, right? Like you're complimenting, and then somebody says, "Oh wait, no," they might see it as flirting, and that really breaks my mind because
Oh, yeah.
how is complimenting someone
Yeah.
the same like with flirting? Like that's not the same exact thing.
Right.
And so when people kind of it feels like people think that everybody knows about these rules, but I that's not true.
Well, I would say, Daniel, that I think people learn them as they're going along, right? So I don't think everybody knows all of them, right? But I think it's a continual learning process, no matter who you are and no matter what age you are. And I'd also say the same thing about dealing with conflict, right? Because I can say there's probably a fair amount of people who aren't good at dealing with conflict or just don't like being confrontational or anything like that, right? So, I mean, not everyone's going to be willing to confront someone when they do something that bothers them, right? And a lot of people do internalize it as opposed to confront it, and regardless of whether you have a disability. So,
Right.
But I think that just goes to the point that everybody's unique in their
Yeah.
own way, regardless of
Yeah.
disability or not, right?
Yeah. It's all about the uniqueness of the humans, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else you want to share with us about you, your life living on campus?
I think it's interesting how this campus, for me, I'm able-bodied. I can walk around everywhere. For me, it's not a big deal. But I am always surprised how inaccessible the campus really is,
Mm.
and the fact that we have like what looks like old accessibility signs in the ground, where even to me as an able-bodied individual, the arrows confuse me.
Oh, that's an
Like
interesting point.
you can look at it
Uh huh.
and be like, oh, okay, the arrow is pointing somewhere. But if you actually, stand and look at it, you're gonna get very confused because where's it pointing?
Yeah.
And I don't know why we still have them and why they're not updated. There's so much things that just how the campus is inaccessible, and I just find it interesting that the how the SGA finally got around to being like, oh yeah, we need to make this campus accessible.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's strange to me because people with disabilities have been on this campus like a long time. For me as an advocate, it it kind of bothers me a little bit that it takes this long for people to look at the fact that there's people with disabilities on their campus that struggle with things that you know many people struggle with different things, and people with disabilities also struggle with different things. Um, like lots of different issues that I feel like could be fixed, but because of um, you know the image, I think
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be upheld. There's an image that UMD is this, prestigious university, and I think that's what they want to uphold. And I feel that needs to be broken,
Mm-hmm.
because by speaking about the people who are on this campus, you know, I think will really help, move the college in the right direction. Disabilities, different religions and other stuff, and by not allowing, by trying to make sure your image stays this pure image of this university, it, I think it's making things worse. And I can't fix it myself. I know that.
Well, thankfully, they hired somebody to be
No,
an
yeah, that's
ADA coordinator
yeah,
recently,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we are certainly working on it, right? We're not perfect, right?
No.
And we know that, right? But I think all of the issues you raised are things that are very much in the forefront of our minds and things we are working on. And I totally wish I could snap my fingers and have it be better tomorrow. Absolutely, right? But we can't. But I think having students like you and other students continue to bring these things to our attention is the best thing we can do in terms of helping everyone understand why this is so important.
I think it's also important to educate people about rare disabilities as well, like NVLD and like so many others like NVLD,
Mm-hmm.
because by just talking about the known ones,
Mm-hmm.
by talking about the things that we still don't know about the known ones, it really kind of pushes all the unknown disabilities that people do have
Yeah.
under the rug. And I think that we shouldn't do that. I think there should be more education on this. And I feel like I feel like it's, I think like the universities, classes in universities, classes in high schools, middle school, high school, universities, I think that will really help, because right now it's like still in the dark. Like we're still in the dark about so many other disabilities than just autism or like ADHD, which
Mm-hmm.
we like know about because there's lots of paperwork written about it.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you, Daniel. I think that people in general, and not right or wrong, but people in general have a tendency, right, to look at, when they say disability, that's sort of, they focus on certain types of disabilities, right? They'll focus either on physical disabilities, perhaps people who use wheelchairs, right, or other types of disabilities, based on their experiences, right, or based on what they are familiar with, or based on what they've seen around, right? And when we actually sit down and have a conversation and say, there are lots of different types of disabilities out there, right? And but I think more importantly, everybody learns differently, right? No two people learn the same way, regardless of disability or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think that's important for people to think about is that all of us will be impacted by disability in some way at some point in time in our life. Either we will become disabled temporarily, or we'll have a permanent disability, or we'll know somebody who has a disability permanently or temporarily, right? So all of us are going to be impacted by it. So when I try and talk to people, one of the things I try and say is that we need to think about this not just for the people who are here today, who need this right now, but everybody for the long term, right? And so I think that I'm in it for the long term. I hope that you are. I think this has been great. I really appreciate the conversation, and clearly we need to continue this conversation. And so I hope that we can do that. And Daniel, I hope that you'll consider us a partner in working to fix these issues on campus as we discover things that we need to work on. So thank you so much for talking with us today. I do hope this conversation opens people's eyes to what it is like to live with a disability. For more information about resources at the University of Maryland about disability, please go to our accessibility website at accessibility.umd.edu. Thanks, Daniel, and thanks everyone for listening today.